Shao Kahn created us as well. You cannot kill what is already dead. Magic binds me still.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel and to another Mortal Kombat mobile character review. Today we are taking on Klassic Kano. So without any further ado, let's jump into the character and let's see what Klassic Kano is all about. Klassic Kano is part of the Outworld class and his passive is called Cheap Shot. Any attack blocked by the opponent has a 25% chance of stunning the opponent. Kano has 100% critical hit chance against enemies affected by stun. Klassic Kano started his journey in the MKX mobile days and was, from the beginning on, a challenge character. He was maxed out with Fusion 7 and level 50. He was always available in the challenge pack, and a little later his level cap was raised to level 60 and Fusion 10. Kano's gear piece is the combat knife and it gives you 50% basic attack damage boost, 20% special attack 3 or X-ray / fatal blow attack damage boost, which is for Kano characters only, and 15% damage boost in faction wars only. In terms of his feats of strength, he will have to win 200 matches in challenge mode to unlock his rune. For his victory stances, he will have to win 750 matches in faction wars. For his taunts, he has to knock out 500 Sonya Blade enemies. For his icons, he has to knock out 1000 enemies. For his backgrounds, he has to perform 1500 special 2 attacks. And for his titles, he has to perform 250 X-ray / fatal blow attacks. And now we are going to take a look at the victory stances one by one, and we are starting with victory. Next we have warming up. Third would be Miss Me. And exclusive for Klassic Kano only, the Cannonball. And on your victory screen it will look like this. Now I am going to show you all of his backgrounds. Next we have the icons. And finally the titles. Unfortunately, Klassic Kano only has one combo ender, but this one triggers very easy, which is why you can keep pressuring your opponent in a constant loop of basic attacks and combo enders, especially once you have trapped him in the corner. His special 1 attack is called the Kano Ball and it has no special buff or debuff tied to it. It mainly deals damage, but at least it is capable of knocking out your opponents. His special 2 is called Ear to Ear, and it is an unblockable attack which has a fire debuff tied to it, and this attack is also capable of knocking out your opponent. And even though it might look funny if he does that to female opponents, but I think they don't really appreciate the after effect. His X-ray is called the Lacerator, and it has a strength buff tied to it. Besides that X-ray just looks as all the other Kano X-rays as well. Brutal, painful, Mortal Kombat material. But at least his opponents are open for everything. His passive is not only capable of stunning the opponent during basic attacks, but also on special attack use. If you manage to KO a stunned opponent, then the stun will carry over to the next opponent. And the stun on special attack use works for special 1s and 2s. Now it's time to recommend some gear again, and my first recommendation would be Scoundrel's Cybernetic Heart. This gear piece coming from the Black Dragon Tower will generate 3 bars of power once you reach a certain percentage of health. On Fusion 0 that percentage would be 30%, but maxed out it is even 60%, which is extreme. It is Kano's gear piece though, unfortunately gold characters cannot use this gear piece to perform a brutality, but the other effect is still great enough. If you're playing it on low fusion though, just be aware that 30% health is not much, and it might be wise to play Kano then with other gear pieces, for example like the Frost Orb, or at least characters that revive or save you like Strikeforce Scorpion or Warlock Quan Chi. If you rather like to have a little focus on special 2 use, then go with the T800 Endoskeleton. It will reduce the power cost of special 2 by 50%, and on top will give Klassic Kano some extra health, and unfortunately he actually needs this little health boost. To get to that special 2 faster, then how about just using the Wrath Hammer? Even on Fusion 0 this already provides a bar of power, and if maxed out you will have a 20% attack boost on top. Now his passive states that Kano has 100% crit chance on stunned opponents, but if you want the crit chance to keep going in the match, then go with Shao Kahn's helmet. Besides the 40% crit chance boost, it will also boost your health, and if you combine that with the T800 Endoskeleton, Klassic Kano's health is quite solid. The winner in my book also comes from the Black Dragon Tower, and in this case it are the Dragon Teeth. And the reason is quite simple, since once Kano stuns an opponent, he will have 100% crit chance, and as soon as the crit chance is there, especially with 100%, the Dragon Teeth will take over with 75% damage once this gear piece is maxed out, and it's not that hard to do because it's an uncommon gear and one of the first ones to be maxed out. Then next let's recommend some characters, and the first one would be Mournful Kitana for the extra bar of power at match begin. If you combine that with gear like for example the Wrath Hammer or the Bloody Tomahawk Kuai Liang Scepter, then you will immediately be able to perform a special 2 attack and get a big advantage in the match. The next one is mainly for fun, and that always when the passive kicks in, then you could use Nightmare Leatherface, because with every stun there is a chance that Leatherface comes from the back with his chainsaw and assists with some solid damage. And since Klassic Kano's passive constantly triggers stun, the chance is very high that you will see Leatherface a lot in the match, even if you don't play Leatherface. Another familiar face shows up with Sun God Kotal Khan, who just gives 30% attack boost to Outworld characters. And since Klassic Kano unfortunately doesn't have the highest stats in the game, he will always welcome a little bit of assistance. Another one, and that is basically just when Kano tags in, that would be Conqueror Shao Kahn. Thanks to his passive, there is a chance when Outworld characters tag in that he will throw his Wrath Hammer. There is a certain percentage, of course, but in case that connects, it will deal a little bit of extra damage, which also helps Klassic Kano along the way. And once again, the winner in my book here is Day of the Dead Kitana. You may be able to boost Klassic Kano now with the gear pieces like T800 Endoskeleton, but getting some health back with each character death on the field, which doesn't matter if it's your teammates or team members of the opposing team, simply beats it all, especially for characters with a little lower stats. Klassic Kano is without a doubt one of the very fun characters to play, especially because he's so easy to handle. The passive can trigger with basic attacks as well as special 1 or 2 use. He is called the cornering machine for a reason. You will just push the opponent all the way to the end of the battlefield, and once you got him in the corner, Klassic Kano shines with brutal combinations of one basic attack and combo ender after another, while your opponent almost is not even able to react anymore. In many cases you don't even have to tag out at all, because Klassic Kano will just finish the entire battle for you. And once you buffed him a little bit with health gear and of course some little damage equipment, then he will be really a force to be reckoned with. So in case you wanna know if it's worth to play his challenge or not, the answer can only be absolutely. Get as many copies of him as you can. Then let's have a quick look at the pros and cons again, and my first pro are the great basic attacks. Klassic Kano's chaining is almost flawless, and it is so much fun if you are able to even break up the block of a blocking opponent just because his passive kicks in and you just continue with basic attacks. This directly leads to the next pro, and that is the useful passive, because not only on basic attacks this passive will be useful, but also on the use of special attacks. Just think about the Kano Ball, how many little mini hits this special attack deals. If the opponent blocks it, he will be stunned guaranteed. My third pro, and that is one of the important ones, is how great he is against evading characters like Assassin Jade, in fact actually the entire Assassin team, or even Nightmare Jason Voorhees for example. Once these characters dare to block your attacks, there is a chance they will get stunned, and then you can just unleash a special attack on them without having to worry that they evade at all. So then let's get into the negatives, and my very first negative, I mentioned it already, it's the low stats of Klassic Kano. Granted, you can boost his damage and health with gear, but on the other hand, wouldn't it be nice if Klassic Kano wouldn't even need this stuff in the first place? Here it clearly shows that he's one of the older challenge characters, and a little stat boost in the future would be something nice to consider for NetherRealm. In terms of design, this might split now the camps. I'm not really a fan of the way the classic variation of Kano looks, and I'm way more a fan of the look and design of the MKX version of Kano, because that kind of represents more his entire personality. And we should not forget that the original idea for Kano was that he would be Japanese, but they rather changed that fact and turned him into an Australian, but somehow they kept the clothes more of the traditional Japanese style. While now versions like Black Dragon Kano or Commando Kano look more like the Australian Outback Warrior. But to be honest, I don't really mind this design either. It just happens to be my least favorite. And now to my final con, and that's actually a big one, and that's that he was not chosen to be a diamond character. Instead they went with good old Cutthroat Kano, and I absolutely have to admit they did a great job on Cutthroat Kano. On the other hand, I'm thinking like a classic Kano diamond variation would look way better in terms of appreciation for the original characters. Instead, they just went nuts with their idea of teams that we should be forced to play together, instead of really giving us Classic Kano, Classic Johnny Cage, Classic Sonya Blade, Classic Sub-Zero on top. And I feel the diamond slot should really be reserved for mainly the classic characters in general, instead of just making everyone in the game now diamond, like they changed all variations of Kitana except Mournful. What were you guys thinking, please? We asked for one diamond Kitana, and that would have even be great if they would have taken the silver classic Kitana and made her diamond. Of course, they could completely do an overhaul with her passive, the stats and synergy and all that beautiful stuff, just like they did with the other cards also. But that just on a side note, and I really think we should get to the end of this Kano review, because we are basically done. I said everything there is to say about this character. As far as the rating goes, I will give him a solid 8 out of 10. And with that, my job here is done. And that brings us to the end of this video, and I hope you enjoyed this little character review for Classic Kano. Of course, I will be back very soon with another video. So please stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for tuning in again. Have a beautiful day. Casey over and out for today.
Thank you for watching around the realm. If you enjoyed the slaughter and the bloodshed, you can support the channel by clicking on the like button. You can also click on one of the two videos presented by Baraka here. Also make sure that you are subscribed and click the bell notification icon to be notified upon new uploads. You all know the drill. Wound not kill, have a good one, and see you next time.